Hey guys, Kevin here to bring you a brand new video where I'm going to go into an in-depth discussion about two films by a particular director going by the name of David Lynch. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this director, but I figured I'd give my input on these two films that I just saw that have just blown my mind in the past few days because of how much they make you think. And films that make you think can be really interesting. But when they make you think to the point of your mind being so deeply fucked by the idea of what themes and what morals and what metaphors are being defined within the films, it really makes you wonder and want to start talking about them and just to think about how they're similar and what does David Lynch convey in these two films. Now, the two films are one that I just saw now, Mulholland Drive, and one that I saw a few days ago, Lost Highway. Now, both of these films are interesting in that they're similar in that they both represent two different narratives of people that represent what people wish they could have and seeing. It's almost like David Lynch wants to convey if people were to see what it would be like in the future and then kind of brings it back to you. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's basically supposed to send a message about different defining themes about what goes on in our lives. I have to be really quiet. I'm sorry, it's 3 a.m. I just finished this movie. I think it really tries to define seeing our better lives, but what we could have done or how we transcended into something. Now, Lost Highway is basically a film that is defined as a transcendence into evil. Now let me mention the two key phenomenons. Now, technically they're both people in each of these movies, but you have the phenomenon of evil in Lost Highway, and you have the phenomenon of failure in Mulholland Drive. Now, don't think of these as people. Think of them as more like manifestations. Okay? So, basically, what Lost Highway gets at is that the manifestation of evil in someone, like, spoiler alert, well, I'm sure you've already seen these films. Spoiler alert, when Fred gets the knife from the evil to kill Dick Laurent, even though Dick Laurent was enjoying his time better with Renee. And then the same thing happens in Mulholland Drive, where except it's a different perspective because Diane sends in an assassinator basically to kill Camilla, aka Rita, because she was with someone else. And both kind of bring out the worst in people basically because of what happens to them in their lives. One is conveying what happens when your wife sleeps with someone else and they get jealous, and then the person kills them due to manifestation of evil, and then has that vision of what that would be like. And then Mulholland Drive is Diane couldn't make it in the industry, and she was actually in love with this girl, for real in love, but I think it was her fantasy to be in love with her, but she really couldn't be because she was making it in the film industry and liked the directors because she was moving up while Diane was transcending into failure, and failure was the hobo that corrupted her. Now, I'm not going to go into this blue key thing because I'm still trying to process what this all means. But, I mean, just take note of the fact that each movie conveys a certain moral to be learned of the story, that through like a fantasy or a dream of some kind that teaches them how a certain manifestation gets inside of you and causes you to act out in a certain way. Where both situations, they both end up killing another person, and Diane kills herself, and Fred dies too. I mean, Jesus, David Lynch, you don't have any good endings to your movies? I mean, like, goddamn. But it's crazy to think how this kind of filmmaking could happen, because David Lynch is just unique in that, I mean, Lost Highway, basically the overarching theme of that is that evil can really manifest in us, and we have to watch out for it. And yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, that's what caused him to kill her, really. And then he fantasized about her in that guy Peter's life. And then Mulholland Drive, it's just like failure. If you transcend into it, it can lead you down a wrong path, including your love life. And people don't notice that. And I don't know, but I mean, the theme I think I saw in Mulholland Drive that I thought was interesting was that the display of actors and actresses isn't always what you think it is what David Lynch is trying to tell us, I think. Because there's this one key scene in the movie where this guy orders an espresso, and supposedly it's the best espresso in the world, proclaimed by others. And he tries it, and he hates it. It just goes to show, think about it. Even if someone is said to be good, what you perceive it as can always be different. It's not, what you think of something isn't always what everybody else thinks of it. And I mean, I think that's what, interestingly enough, Lost Highway is as well. I mean, because, what is it? The guy Fred, he's like, I like to see things the way they are, not through like a videotape. So it's just like how everything is conveyed to us. It's just like, these are the things that David Lynch gets us thinking about. I mean, like, if you know more than I do about this, I mean, you could put it in the comments and explain, but I mean, like, I feel like it's just so hard to understand. Like, I know there's some parts, I'm like piecing everything together. It's just like, it's really hard to connect everything in the story together. Fred finds out that Renee is sleeping with Dick Laurent, or aka Mr. Eddie in the other movie, and then kills her in spite of it. And that's the corruption of evil getting inside of him. And that's kind of conveyed throughout the movie. And that's why he's always present there. And then in his vision, he's Peter, what his ideal version of himself would be, just like Mulholland Drive. But he kind of like forms it to be the way he wants it to be, but gets to see Renee's perspective through Alice by living his own lie as Renee did. So he gets to feel what it's like by cheating on his own girlfriend. And he learns eventually that that it's a dream from the mystery man and whatnot. I mean, he eventually figures out that, his own actions. And then Mulholland Drive is very similar in that it's about a fantasy version of Diane who wishes she could make it into a better life but doesn't, and winds up killing herself, and wishes that she could get with this girl and doesn't due to failure in the industry. I mean, it's just like, I've never seen filmmaking like this, really. Like, this is just something else. I mean, like, the way the scenes are structured, the way the writing is structured, the way the acting is structured even, I don't know. Just everything about these movies by David Lynch. Also, I commend David Lynch for being able to do what he does in making the films, like, so, like, ominous and, like, intense. I don't know, like, it's not even like it's a horror film, but, like, it's like a drama, but he knows how to, like, add that intensity with the score and the camera angles, and just, I don't know, like, especially when, like, when they went to Diane's house, like, Diane, ooh, who's that girl? Let's go investigate. Like, when they were, like, going to her house, like, that was so, like, ominous. Like, in, like, Lost Highway, too, there's so much, like, intense scenes in that. Like, and creepy characters, too, with the mystery man and, like, that film guy in Mulholland Drive. Like, they, and especially that hobo, like, the fuck? I mean, it's 3:30 right now. Like, I'm gonna get like nightmares from that shit. No, I probably won't. Hopefully not. But Jesus, that was. I can see that why that guy died from that. I don't know if he died, but yeah, that dude, this man Lynch, he knows how to make some crazy shit. I mean, I've only seen two, granted, but just these two alone, I mean, man, I need a break from these. I mean, like, let me just talk about the Blue Box real quick, because I know I did say that I don't know much about them, but I think I can kind of draw a conclusion about them. Basically, the Blue Box is like a fantasy world for Diane. But the thing I don't get is, when is she in the real world and when is she in her fantasy world? So it's like, it was really confusing because, like, she'd wake up and then, like, I don't know, like, it's just such a mind fuck. But I get what was going on. She was failing as an actress and losing her love life, Camilla, or aka Rita, in her fantasy world, and ends up transcending to the point of killing herself. That's basically what happens. I mean, failure corrupted her to the point of her own death. But it's just very blurry as to what exactly happened. But, I mean, like, even though I don't completely understand everything that happened in either of these movies, I mean, I still don't understand everything in Lost Highway. I mean, both of these movies are extremely hard to understand. I actually think Mulholland Drive is harder to understand than Lost Highway. But, with that being said, I do think these are good movies. Because they make you think. And it's unique filmmaking. And I mean, like, films that display metaphors like this, like, that's, like, really cool to do that. Like, separating itself from others by making us think about these things, about how evil corrupts us, or about how failure can lead us down a bad path. and whatnot. So the kind of stuff that makes you think, it's always cool to kind of see that, even if it's hard to understand sometimes. So that's been my analysis of Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to like it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I must say,